And welcome to this edition of Chiefs Live. It is Raiders Week, Part 2. Mitch Holthus with you, along with the snapper, 15-year NFL veteran, Pro Bowler. Made it to Hawaii, being the best long snapper to ever play in this game. And the Chiefs lose to the Cleveland Browns 30-7. We have to start with that game first, Kendall, before we move into the Oakland game. And wow, the start to this one looked like Chiefs were going to back up the Carolina win with another win.
You know what, Mitch, you had to be excited because you come out like they did, and Jamal scampers off for 80 yards like he did, and the play was so well blocked, and we'll go over that here in a little bit. And then the next series, they come down, and you have that long pass to Bo, and you have to wonder, what if? What if he had gotten in the end zone and you're up 14-0? What if? But he didn't, and then, of course, we missed the field goal. It deflates things a little bit. But I was impressed with the attitude and really the energy they came out and played with in the first half. Unfortunately, it didn't continue over the second half, and we'll talk about all that here later on in the show, obviously. But for what they experienced last week and having to deal with it more, they came out with a lot of energy, like I said earlier.
This is the only third down conversion of the game for the Chiefs. They were 1 of 11. They hit Bo before he gets injured. 3rd and 8 for a 23-yard play. And this is on the second possession. To your point, this could be a 14-0 lead, and this was one of Quinn's better throws, putting it right on the fingertips.
You know what? You cannot place the ball any better than that. They talk about as the QB, you try to throw to the box, and the box is the sideline and a 4 yards into it, and you try to get there as a receiver, and you're trying to throw to the receiver's outside shoulder if they get all the way out to the inside shoulder, and right here, right on the helmet and the hands, you cannot draw it up any better than what he did right there.
Joe Hayden, a good cornerback too, a lot of a good young Browns players. This was the play.
Oh.
They get the mic comes free, hits him. As I was calling the play-by-play, watch the backer here. No, this is the third down play where I think it might have been miscommunication with Moeaki. It looks like he wanted to run a smash route or something.
Right, but you talk about it, and you talk about this. What's frustrating about this is the fact that we went off sides and we went back 5 yards. If we're 5 yards farther up, that ball goes in.
Well, you've made a living on special teams. This one is yikes. A little chicanery here by the Browns as they don't have Cribbs back. They have this kid back, the rookie, and the Chiefs just don't play this very well, let's be honest.
Well, you're right. Travis Benjamin, that's not who you were worried about when you were coming into the game. But, unfortunately, I've chased people in this same spot. When they got rid of the last stadium, then built this new one, I remember chasing Metcalf a couple times for touchdowns like that. But special teams, you can't have that happen.
A near pick. This could have changed the game. This is a forgotten play, actually, where Eric Berry could have picked it. Then the slant was a problem. But the Chiefs kicked the ball out of bounds to start the half. A rare mistake by Ryan Succop after the Chiefs had these guys pinned back in the first half, and they used the field position to blow it open.
Well, you're exactly right, and you so astutely during the game pointed out the fact that starting out the 40 as opposed to the 20, maybe you don't run that reverse and get those yards when you start from the 40. So, that's just, again, a special teams issue that bit him a little bit. That's what Romeo, I talked to him at halftime, that's what he talked about. He was okay with what the offense was doing in the first half, and defense was doing some good things, but the special teams he was not pleased with.
Then the next 26 minutes turn into the first 8 games of the season for the most part, as Cleveland just takes the small crack and blows it wide open. I like this Browns team. There's a lot of good young players involved here. Tyson Hartman nearly had his first NFL interception there and getting his first NFL start, the free agent out of Wichita, Kansas, Cape High School. But Cleveland blows it open, and this thing started running downhill, and with Bo out, there were no answers.
Well, you're exactly right. And when you look at the second half, Mitch, 19 minutes and 39 seconds, the Browns had it. They controlled the second half. When you have a disparity like that, you're going to have a rough time. And as we've seen, Richardson, 18 for 42 yards, and Hardesty, 10 for 52. Not a dominating performance, but it just seemed, I'm going to tell you right now, Richardson, though, if you added up how many yards he got by running sideways to get those extra yards he got, that guy was just wiggly, and he was hard to bring down. He is a load at 5'9", 5'10", 230 pounds.
And he's pretty strong because there were 3 times that I can think of he had at least 4 Chiefs on him, then 5, and then dragged half the defense for another 5 yards. That is a man, a young man.
It really was uncanny. And what you talk about, Ben Watson for them, the tight end, has 9 years in the league. Their next oldest player is six years in the league. So they've got a team that's really up and coming, and they showed it this last Sunday.
Yeah, they've done a nice job building for 2013. Keep your eye on the Cleveland Browns, and they're building it to win in the AFC North. Let's get some reaction in the locker room. This was a disappointed crew and just had gone through a lot in an 8-day period, and you can kind of sense it toward the end of the game.
That yesterday kind of hurt us a little bit. Kind of brought us down because we could have got some points, but we didn't. There was a lot of miscues, from everybody, and we got to fix them. And, hopefully the next 3 games we progress, get better in the rest.
No, there's a lot of history in both franchises, and it's been a rivalry for a long time. Always a tough physical game, so we have to be ready.
Both teams probably in the same similar situation, but both teams are prideful. Both teams are being coached by good coaches, and our coaches ain't gonna let us give up, and their coaches not either.
Well, I know they got a real fast physical football team, and we just gotta prepare and get our game plan set and go out and compete.
Yeah, I mean, we lose one of the top receivers in the league, so we have to step up at the skill positions to make up for his production.
Guys got to step up. I think guys been stepping up all year. It's been a tough year for everybody, but guys got to step up. I know Donald Stevenson is a guy that stepped up, replacing me being hurt. One of the young receivers got to step up. That's our job as being professional football players, and somebody got to step up.
I mean, we just gotta keep finding ways to get better. We're out here to perfect our craft and get better, individually and collectively, and just gotta keep doing that these last 3 weeks.
And the last 3 weeks starts with the Raiders game. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. But the issue here now, going into Raiders week, is the fact that Dwayne Bowe, injured in this game and will be out at least for the Raiders game, could be longer. It was reported by a national outlet that it was broken ribs. That was reported actually before the game was over. All right, now, you got to try to do this without Dwayne Bowe. What about the targets to Bowe up to this point? I mean, you look at the mathematics. Somebody's got to figure out to fill this void to beat Oakland.
Well, you're exactly right, and you bring up a good point, Mitch, because he's been targeted 114 times this year. He's got 59 receptions for 801 yards. The next most is McCluster at 41 receptions for 358. He's been targeted 62 times. Thrown to Bowe almost twice as much as anybody else. So that is an issue. And what you saw this last week, one thing that we haven't brought up yet, but it's something to be noted, is coming into the game, Moeaki had been the leading receiver the last 4 games coming in. So in the last 4 games, he had 258 yards. So this last game, he has 1 catch for 10 yards. That's going to be an issue now because you've taken away another weapon, quite honestly, for the Chiefs.
And an Oakland secondary that's had its moments, particularly against Kansas City. Giordano had a couple picks against Kansas City, including a 62-yard interception last year. Tyvon Branch is big and physical, and Michael Huff can move around. He can play either corner or he can play safety. We'll get to that in a second. But again, the Chiefs have to go to Oakland and try to win for the 9th time in 11 years without Dwayne Bowe at wide receiver. Let's get the reaction of Romeo Crennel. He kind of looks back at Cleveland, but he also talks about the absence of Bowe.
Dwayne has some ribs, and he's not going to be there this week for sure. And I don't know about the rest of the year yet. They're doing MRIs and all that good stuff today. And so as soon as they find out finally what it is, I'll let you know. But he's not going to be there next week. He presents some dependability to our offense, playmaking ability. So we all kind of depend on him a little bit. So now with him being out, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to rely on those other guys to step up and be able to make some plays for us so that we can generate some offense.
Here's another issue. Kansas City, we'll talk about Jamaal Charles in a little bit and the remarkable year he's having, 5th in the league rushing on a 2-11 team. But what is overlooked here, losing Dwayne Bowe, is what he means in your running game. Probably better than any pass he's caught in his career in Kansas City. He is one of the better downfield blockers in this league in the running game as a receiver, being big and physical. And that's also an element that has not been talked about. You lose when you lose Dwayne Bowe.
Mitch, you're exactly right, because at 6'2", 230 pounds, this guy bought in a couple of years ago, and he started blocking downfield. And when you do that as a wide receiver, then as a coach, you know your guys bought in, because you do not get accolades for blocking downfield except by your own teammates or the occasional guy who's astute like you talking about it. But when it comes down to it, when you can block downfield, that makes a difference. That turns your 5, 10, 15-yard runs into 80-yard scampers like you see Jamaal Charles doing right here.
Just go back and look at Jamal Charles' 91-yard run against New Orleans, and you'll see a perfect example of what we're talking about. So Bo lost this week. The receivers have to fill a void, obviously, in being targeted and catching passes, but not so obviously in what they mean in the run game in being able to block downfield. Now, I want to ask you about the defensive line, because this has become a positive. The young defensive guys in the middle, the inside techniques, whether it's in the base defense or whether it is in the sub packages. This has been a big improvement since the last time the Chiefs played Oakland in the last weekend of October. What are you seeing from Tyson Jackson and Dontari Poe in their improvement?
You know what amazes me is they're getting their hands inside. As a defensive lineman, you want to get your hands inside, you want to press them out, and you want to get penetration, and you want to make it as uncomfortable for that quarterback, number one, as you can. Now, what you see right here with Tamba coming around, this is against a guy who'd only given up 2 sacks the entire year, Mitch. He gives up 2 in the first half. He didn't know what was thinking. That's because of the relentlessness, number one, of Tamba Hali, and it's also because of great defensive backfield play by those corners and safeties. And you see right there, getting a tip on the ball. You see other times that old college screen, Mitch. He's doing a great job of recognizing it and coming out and making the tackle there as well.
Here's what we're talking about. Look at the bull rush by Tyson Jackson, taking Mitchell Schwartz and just destroying him, taking him into the backfield. Here's another tip play by Jackson. Now, these are explosive plays. This isn't just playing the 2-gap so Tamba Hali or Justin Houston can do their work. This is a guy playing 2-gap, but also making impact plays.
Well, you're right. Last week he has 6 tackles. This week he has 3. He has a sack. 2 weeks in a row he has a sack. If you look at the front 5, and when I say your nose tackle, your 2 defensive ends, and your 2 outside linebackers, last week 27 tackles collectively. That has not been happening. That's a good thing. You would prefer that your leading tacklers are up front in that tackle box and not your corners or your safeties.
We've also seen Dontari Poe do the same thing. And again, we talk so much about the 2-gap scheme and how it's not a stats position when you've got those 0, 3, or 5 techniques in this defense. But now we're starting to see it. And not just in a sub package when the team is going to throw, we're seeing it also in the base. That, to me, gives you a glimmer of hope going into the rest of this year and into 2013.
Well, you're right. And you talk about Rapati Patotua, 9 tackles this week, 1 tackle for a loss. This is a guy at 6'8", 315 pounds, whatever it is. That is a big man. He plays with a mean streak. He looks like RoboCop because he's got this contraption on his left elbow. And I'm going to tell you, that's not there for looks. That's because he's injured and he's got some issues. And with that, that's a guy who's making a difference, who's all in, is trying every play. And that's the thing. These guys want it. They're doing a good job. Defensive line-wise for the Chiefs, they are improving.
And we're not waving pom-poms here.
Right. No.
You and I both watch tape, and I can't watch the defensive line during play-by-play because I have to follow the football. But that's why I specifically look at it at the early part of the following week. I watch the offensive and defensive lines. And now for a solid month, really looking at 5 weeks, particularly with Poe, but now with Jackson, you start to see it. And I say this before, I'm going to say it again. You love it when it becomes a habit, not a flash,
right.
A habit. How habitual is this getting with these guys?
You know, it's a good thing you talk about. Habit is the exact word that you want to use because these defensive linemen, they have to make it a habit because if they don't, they won't end up playing. You talked about it. They're in the 2-gap, and they're not designed to make tackles all the time, Mitch, but the fact is when you can get that and still allow linebackers like Derek Johnson to run free like he did. I'm going to tell you right now, Derek Johnson, you know, he's doing his part also. He's a warrior. He's got that left leg taped up. He is hurt, and I see him make tackles for a loss. He shoots through there, then he gets up and limps back to the huddle. Those are some incredible things. And again, we're not waving the pom-poms, overlooking things. Things have to get better, but the fact is you've got to look for the positives and what's going on well, and that's something that is very, very good.
And if the Chiefs are going to win at Oakland, one of the keys will be the guys that play the position that Poe and Jackson play for the Raiders. That's where it starts, and that's where we'll start when we come back after the messages.
I pull up to the game and all I smell is barbecue. I see everybody with their jerseys on, just out tailgating. Everybody's yelling, honking their horns in their cars, offering me barbecue on the way before the game. I mean, everybody's just friendly. I mean, it's just a wonderful city to play football in, man. Our fans are good in the stadium and out of the stadium. They just treat everybody with respect, and you gotta love that. This city is built like a family. This is a great place to be, and I love it.
Women 40 years and older,
84.3%.
More women.
Women 40 years and older are getting mammograms, which can save their lives.
84.3%. That is the average survival rate for Kansas and Missouri.
More women are battling this disease, and the survival rate is rising.
Help continue the trend. Join the Kansas City Chiefs, Hy-Vee, and the University of Kansas Cancer Center and schedule a screening today. It can save your life.
Across the 40, Charles is gonna go! See you later!
If you're a Chiefs fan, you know 3 things matter. 1, being at Arrowhead. 2, rocking your red on Sunday. And 3, tailgating! This fall, I'll be out and about around Arrowhead Stadium with the 65 TPT crew to show the world what tailgating is about. Let me know through Twitter or Facebook why our cameras should come to your tailgate. If you're chosen, your tailgate will be featured on KCChiefs.com so the world can party with you. But remember, you have to make room for one more on the menu.
Chiefs tailgating, baby!
The fans are great. You know, they always behind the team no matter what. Definitely when it's cold outside, when everybody could just take it in and sit back and drink coffee in front of the TV, they out there rooting with us. So the fans definitely are our motivation to go out there and get them something to cheer for. Playing with great intensity, playing with effort and toughness, things like that the fans really appreciate. So it's our job as a defense to go out there and get them that play in and play out.
Well, it is Raiders Week, part 2. Now, this series, of course, the history goes back to 1960, but recently it's been a whack job. The fact that Kansas City can't win at Arrowhead, they've lost 6 in a row to the Raiders here, but in the Coliseum, Kansas City's won 8 of the last 10 games. Go figure.
It makes no sense, but it's Raiders Chiefs, and that makes no sense. Those teams don't even like to be on the same field together. I know from the 7 years that I played with the Chiefs, it's just one of those games. But a lot of big things going on. But you talked about defensively, when you look at them with Oakland, what they have, you look at their corners and Adams and Huff. These 2 guys both have 2 interceptions each. That will be interesting because we talked about the loss of Bo, but the big guys up front defensively, your Tommy Kelly, your Richard Seymour, those guys are hard to deal with.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
Because in the 6-game losing streak at Arrowhead, 4 of those are those 2 guys to me, that and the special teams guys. But let's take those 2 inside techs. Same thing happened again in late October here in Kansas City in that victory by Oakland. The Chiefs struggle blocking those guys. When those 2 guys come to play, and let's don't forget the outside guys, Lamar Houston, Shaughnessy. When these guys want to play, Wheeler, same thing. The front 7, they get Rolando McClain back off of suspension. This is a problem, and the Chiefs must run the ball. Now here on defense, they got the long ball going in Kansas City, and the Chiefs are going to have to, well, this was the pick early, but Kansas City's going to need some of this because you know Carson Palmer wants to go to your 3rd level of your defense.
Well, he does, and the Oakland Raiders, they lead the league in yards after the catch, and that's a perfect example right there you see as he catches the college screen and he's going in there for a long gain. So they lead the league in yards after catch, and right now the Chiefs are last in the league giving up the most yards after the catch, so something's got to give. You hope it's the right way, the Chiefs' side of the ball.
Chiefs are still in this game, if you recall, early in the second quarter, trying to get something going against this defense. But the guys inside, it is just, they're very, very difficult to block. The running game, here they get McCluster on a run, and Dex is going to have to step up with the injury to Bo, I'm sorry. But you got to block these guys up front. Now, Oakland has not won since this game. They've lost 6 in a row since this game in the last weekend of October. So it's not like the Raiders are, and look at this. It is an average margin of loss of 17 points. Not only have they lost, they get clocked.
They're doing it with authority.
Double-digit Tampa Bay. Baltimore smokes them, and the Ravens have their issues. New Orleans beats them by 21. Cincinnati blows them out. They had a close game with Cleveland, and then Denver toyed with them on Thursday Night Football. But I'm just trying to get a feel for this game, and right now it's Tuesday. It's early. I don't have one.
You know what? It's interesting. You talked about it. This is a big thing. You're talking about those inside guys. They're both 6'6". They have long arms, so they can really press you out. That makes a difference. And the fact is, when they get in there with those long arms to press you out, and they can see the QB. The other thing now is they can get their arms up, and that makes it tough for the guy whoever's trying to deliver the ball. In this case, Brady Quinn this time. And as we saw some of those highlights, what we saw, which was nice in that last game, was we saw some chunk yardage, which is what Oakland likes to do with their receivers and their big plays, but the Chiefs did it okay last week. That's got to happen as well. That being said, Bo's out. We saw several crossing patterns to him. If that's not the case, somebody's got to step up. You hope. I'm going to tell you right now, Mitch, here's the theme is you've got some young guys. The coaches talk about it all the time. Next man up. Well, you know what? It is the next man up with some people going out, and they've got to take advantage of it. Somebody needs to step up in this game. When it comes down to it, in the end, though, the Chiefs have to go with their established run game. That's what's got them.
And on the other side of the ball, again, the Carson Palmer still can shove it down there. Denarius Moore is very underrated as a wide receiver, but something's not happening with these guys. In the game against Denver, their defense got lit up. Of course, Peyton Manning's going to get after them, but this defense is not playing with confidence on the back end. We mentioned the guys up front, the front seven, but something's not quite right with these guys. Now, they've had issues in their coaching staff. Their head coach has had to deal with some personal illness and passing of his father and such. But this Oakland team, I'm trying to figure them out. But it seems like when they want to play now, they're a load.
They are, and it's the Chiefs. You got to throw all the stats out, unfortunately, when the Chiefs and the Raiders play from both sides of the ball. But when you look at it with the Raiders, they have only 17 sacks. That's next to the last in the NFL. They've got only 9 interceptions and 7 fumbles. Those aren't great numbers either. So they are not the type of defense that gives people problems all the time. But again, as I said earlier, you've got to throw it out the window when it comes to this game.
And finally, to wrap up the Raiders game, we got to wrap it up where we talk about it all the time. And while they're there, they can impact a game. And that's Shane Lechler, arguably and statistically the best punter, at least gross punting, in the history of the National Football League, and Seabass. Sebastian Janikowski. I mentioned, Josh Cribbs last week can fill a man cave of photos of what he's done against the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, guess what? Seabass can do the same.
Well, he can, and Seabass is 24 for 26 this year. Yeah, I know one of those misses is from 52 yards, and you know what? When you're a kicker and you're 24 for 26 and you miss one from 56 yards wide, it wasn't short, it was wide. Yeah. As a coaching staff, you don't have an issue with that, really. And then you talked about Shane Lechler as well, a 47.3 average, so he's got a thunder leg. Now his net is only 38 yards, so not the greatest, but that's what he's been doing. He's been a perennial Pro Bowler. He's a great guy. He was at the Pro Bowl with me when I was there, a great guy, but I'm going to tell you right now, he's thunderfoot. That's what he's going to do. He's going to kick it deep. He outkicks his coverage quite often. If you back Oakland up, you've got a chance to get some returns.
This was one of the more heartsick points. Seabass misses. You'd think this was one of his 2 misses, right, against Arrowhead? No, penalty on the Chiefs. They get another chance, and whoops, it's good, and Seabass just puts another notch on his belt against Kansas City. But this was a very frustrating game. Oakland breaks it open and ends up being a rout. Kansas City gets a late touchdown to make it a 10-point deficit. But here we go to the Coliseum, where Kansas City's actually had a lot of success winning 8 of the last 10 games. But you mentioned the young guys. We'll close it this way because you're thinking, what is there to play for? Kansas City's taken some bad teams to the Coliseum and won. Look at 2008. One of the 2 wins was out there that year. But for the young guys on this football team, and trying to figure out your assets as you move forward, this is an important game for those guys. And you think of the Tyson Hartmans and the receiving core, Jamar Newsom, and looking at those guys, it'd be nice to get pick 6s like last year in the Coliseum. Kendrick Lewis getting this one, which was a fabulous play, his best play as a Chief. And this one's one of my favorite. Flowers picks it and goes and finds the black hole. It was pheasant season, it looked like, in the Nebraska, Kansas, because there were at least 3 dozen birds flying as Flowers went to the end zone. But don't think Carson Palmer is going to do that this time. He was there only 4 days. He's been there now a year and a half, so it's a little bit different.
Well, you're right, and make no mistake, you're in the black hole. It is Oakland. I remember my days playing. I'm a long snapper. I'm not that important. The minute I walk out onto the field, I'm getting cussed at. I'm getting booed. It is Raider week. It is the Raiders. I mean, they are what they are, and it will be very, very interesting.
Here are the numbers. Not real pretty for them. You see the passing yards up there in the top 10 in the league. They like to chuck it deep. The rushing yards have not been there all year. And with Darren McFadden, he's been beat up. They are just not running the ball. I think they miss Michael Bush a lot. I thought they were going to miss him when they lost him in the offseason. They have. Then defensively, the points per game, dead last in the league. This just isn't a real pretty chart here. The Chiefs' numbers aren't either. But again, it's too early in the week for me to have a feel for this game. Now, here's what's fun to do. Maybe you'll go down there with me this time. To the black hole, kind of just walk by, you're wearing Chief stuff, and of course they don't know who I am. They might look, Take Lenny Dawson down to the black hole. Ooh, is that fun? When Spike recognizes who it is, it just turns into mayhem. Here
and walk about this far away. Give about 4 to 5 inches more than arm's length.
Go to Netflix, find the movie The Blues Brothers, and remember the scene of the Rawhide song.
Absolutely.
That's what you got. Beer bottles, batteries, washing machines getting thrown at you. Take Lenny down there for a little stroll in the front of the black hole. It's kind of fun.
It is an experience.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Chiefs Live, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Follow us at kcchiefs.com. We got a lot more coming your way.